You are watching Fugitive Red-Eye, and welcome to another sort of rant sort of thing. I don't know if this is going to be called a rant or what. Maybe it is. Yeah, I think I'll call it a rant. But what I wanted to talk about today is something I was talking about on the stream I just ended a few seconds ago, after about an hour. But I kept talking about this during the stream, and something that I realized that is nuts, that drives me insane, is, life is meant to be edgy, right? The world is a harsh, fucked up, and dark place. Conversations were meant to be raw and real. And the problem I have with the vast majority of people now is people aren't fucking real anymore. It's like look at Xbox now, right? The fact that they're gonna give you strikes on your fucking Xbox account if people record you saying something that's profanity or hate speech and give you strikes based on that. This is fucking Xbox. Like, I mentioned this on the other stream, but fucking Modern Warfare 2, Halo 3, these game lobbies were super edgy and over the top. People were real. People would just say what they fucking wanted and be a dick to you. And everyone acts like they have to be afraid and step on eggshells and not say shit because it's too offensive or too insensitive. But the thing is, life is offensive. Life is insensitive. Like, the world is edgy. Life is edgy. Like, I know that word is fucking faggy as hell. But that's fucking life. Like, people act like just saying something mean, insensitive, over the top, controversial. They act like they've never done it. Where the fuck have they been the last 10 years? The last 15 years? Life is just life. That's how it is. Like, there are conversations I had with my coworkers at McDonald's that are not fucking YouTube appropriate. That's the level we're talking about. There are literally things I said at McDonald's I cannot repeat on YouTube. And this was just chit-chat with coworkers, some of which were fucking managers. Do you know how I used to greet people when I went to work? I used to greet people at work by doing a fucking Nazi salute. That's how I used to say hi to people. Legit. That was my wave. And people would reciprocate it. And I'm not just talking white people, black people, Hispanic people. We all did. It was a joke, and people got that. That was life. But now people are like, oh, well, I'm all for free speech, but I don't want to be offensive. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to say slurs. Look at slasher movies. There's all sorts of insensitive shit in those. Slasher movies were sadistic. They were vile. That's what made them great. That's what makes Terrifier great. Because there's literally a scene where he cuts a chick in half from the crotch. Like I said, I mentioned all this on my previous stream tonight. But the internet isn't what it used to be. The internet is edgy. It was always meant to be. When you look at things like what the internet used to have, right? They had Goatsy, they had Rotten.com, they had Meatspin. They had nasty shit like Tub Girl. There was Blue Waffle, 2 girls, 1 cup. This was the peak of the internet, right? Was fucked up shit. And like just having a conversation with the boys, you could be raw, you could say what you wanted. I talked to female coworkers just as fucking raunchily. There are so many things that if I repeated would get me in trouble with HR at my current job that I said to people at McDonald's all the time, that I said to fucking customers at McDonald's. YouTube used to be filled with conspiracy theories. All sorts of stuff that would be considered hate speech now as well. Like, people were raw, people were real, people said what they really fucking thought and didn't give a shit what pussy-ass bitches said. People pretend that they were never into that sort of thing. People pretend that they've always been sensitive, that they've always been caring and quote-unquote progressive and bullshit like that. That's not the case. Literally everyone would talk to you about all sorts of shit that is not appropriate, and that some of which I can't even fucking repeat on here. That was a normal conversation back in the day. But also, all sorts of new ideas prop up, and people just prop it up. A man says he's a woman, you have to respect that. You have to act like he actually is. This is the new norm. Everyone is a fucking NPC just wanting to get the next Marvel schlock, or the new fucking Call of Duty game, or the new fucking Battle Royale bullshit. YouTube used to kick ass. We had things like Mumkey Jones. We had things like Filthy Frank. iDubbbz used to be cool. H3H3 was never really that cool, but he used to be cooler. He used to be watchable. He used to be somewhat enjoyable. You got fucking people like Howard Stern, who used to be edgy and over the top and raw and just say whatever. But now they don't. Now they're cowards. You have Sacha Baron Cohen, the guy who played fucking Borat, now saying that YouTube has too much hate speech and shit like that. Like, this was a couple years ago that he said this or whatever, like 2020, I think. You got things pulling down stuff and acting like, oh, this is insensitive, we can't have this. Oh, this episode of The Office, Diversity Day, we can't have this is too offensive. Oh, this scene in The Office that has blackface, oh, we can't have this. Oh, this episode of The Simpsons that has Michael Jackson in it, we better pull that. Oh, this episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force where Shake becomes black, oh, can't do that, that's too much. Oh, did you hear this comedian did blackface? Who the fuck cares? That was fucking normal, and it still should be. Why does everything have to be made into a major issue? Everyone has to act like every scandal they hear, every fucking thing, they have to pretend like they're personally affected by it, like they actually fucking care. They hear like some celebrity did some edgy, offensive, over-the-top thing, said some insensitive thing, said something hateful, did something, whatever. They act like, oh, how could I ever support this? I can't believe I ever was into someone so offensive and so mean and so hateful. The kind of conversations I had in high school all the time. Do you know how much we fucking just talked about all sorts of fucked up stuff? Like, in high school, when I sat around when I was a sophomore and I talked with my friends who were all seniors at the time, they would talk about, sex. They would talk about their sex lives. There was this one guy, Jordan, who was fucking huge. He was like 6.5 people. He would talk about having sex with his wife or his girl. Well, not his wife, but what he wanted to be his wife, although I'm pretty sure he actually didn't stay with her. I think he got with another chick later on. But he talked about fucking BME Pain Olympics. They shared shit like Blue Waffle and 2 Girls, 1 Cup. HR departments are a scourge. They are fucking despicable. And it's because women are in the workplace. Honestly, that's part of the problem. Is because they've been in the workplace for too long and it causes problems. But that's a whole other tangent. But it's connected, because everyone's feminizing. Everyone has to be like, oh, this is too mean, this is too insensitive. We used to have fucking freak shows, right? Where people would go and like I've never been to a freak show, obviously, because, they're a pretty old-timey thing. But, like, everyone acts like, oh, this is so horrible. I can't believe they used to have freak shows. You mean they used to have a place where they employed people who were horribly deformed and actually made use of that deformity? You think that's bad? What the fuck? Everyone gets all up in arms when a movie had, like, real animal deaths back in the day, too. It's like, it's a fucking movie and they're animals. Like, look, I like animals. I care about animals. But at the end of the day, I eat meat. And, like with Cannibal Holocaust, right? All the animals that were killed on that set were eaten. People don't have actual conversations anymore. I mean, some do, right? Like, I'll still have regular conversations with people. And that's the one thing that I do like, is there are still people I can find who will be fucking normal and not just be fucking NPCs that are perpetually offended by everything. Like, I know, this is all, this is nothing new, right? Everybody says shit like this. But the problem is it's not just the perpetually offended that are a problem. There are so many people who are like, oh, I don't like all this woke stuff. Oh, but you said the N-word? Oh, you're evil. Oh, I'm all for free speech. Oh, I'm a Christian, but, I support the gays, and I support gay marriage, and all this other stuff. And it's like, you're supporting all this shit and acting like you're offended when people don't, when you're supposedly from an ideology that doesn't condone these things. Like, look, I think marriage itself is kind of a fucking sham now. But gay marriage literally isn't marriage. Like, that's not the whole purpose of it, right? And that was the whole argument back in the day that literally everyone agreed with until recently. Back in the day, when fucking drag queens and shit would be doing drag queen stuff, they knew they were degenerate. That was the whole point, right? They were doing something raunchy and shameful, and they knew that. They knew it was degenerate, but that was the point. When it was that, I was all for that kind of free expression, right? Because they knew it was shameful. Like, I love offensive stuff. Like, everyone acts all up in arms about everything. Like, these people have not experienced fucking life. They don't realize that life is not PG-13. Life is a fucking hard AO, like if we're talking games, I mean. It is a hard X-rated. It is NC-17. Life is edgy. Life is over the top. People talk about fucked up shit. People share fucked up videos. There's things like, Faces of Death. That went by all back in the day, right? Like, I just hate how fucking pussified everyone is. Like, I know I've ranted about this kind of thing so many times, but it just gets to me, right? Socializing on the internet used to be like going into a Phantasy Star Universe lobby and seeing somebody scamming you or people selling fucking hentai pictures. That was the kind of shit you'd run into. Like, there would be people who'd be like, nude pics, message for proof. And, there'd be people who were like, oh, look, I'm selling hentai pictures. And then, of course, there'd be all the scammers, right? I did a whole video on Phantasy Star Universe. And then you'd join a fucking Call of Duty lobby, and some little kid would call you a nigger, and then tell you he fucked your mom, and then tell you to kill yourself. That was the internet. And it didn't mean anything, because it was trash talk. Everybody fucking trash talked. That was the way the internet was. And now everyone is just fucking hollow and a shell of that, and everything is fucking fake and sanitized, and I can't fucking stand it. It drives me up the fucking wall. Like, everyone acts like, oh, all these things were so brutal and horrible. We've moved past. We've moved on. No, you fucking haven't. You just change the rulebook, and then you're cruel in other ways. You just pick a team, and you go for that team, and dehumanize everyone else against that. That's the way fucking politics works, is you're on one side, and then you dehumanize the other side. And here's the thing. I think you should pick sides, because I think that if you don't, then you're just gonna fucking end up being more and more sanitized. I think picking sides is actually a good thing. But the problem is that's all it fucking is now, is team sports. And you also act like just because someone did something offensive, or someone did something bad, that suddenly nullifies every good thing they ever did, or every bad thing, or every good thing they've ever said. Right? Like, if someone is a horrible person, like there's a serial killer, but they made a good point at some point, that doesn't make the point not a good point just because a fucking serial killer said it, right? Like, people act like the stuff Leafy used to do on YouTube was too much. But the thing is, everybody was fucking like that. He just made videos of it. Like, trash talking, being a dick. That's life. That's real. That's not this pussy fucking fake modesty and fake politeness that everyone fucking pretends to have now. It's this kind of shit that makes me a cynical and jaded person that hates so many things. I find it so hard to get into new things, because new things fucking suck. That's why I'm excited for Terrifier 3. I know I brought it up earlier. I'm really genuinely excited for that movie, and I hope they don't fuck it up, because the first two were great. And, like, every once in a while you'll get a diamond in the rough, but it's so rare and hard to find now that it just makes it not worth digging. And that's the problem I have, is everything is so fucking sanitized. I find it so hard to stay interested in fucking anything at all. And, like, people, like, play games and don't want to do the evil routes, right? Like, I brought this up, too. Undertale, people don't like to do the evil route. They're like, oh, everyone should do pacifist. No! No! The genocide route is so much more interesting. The neutral endings are my favorites. I love the Papyrus ending, right? When you play Knights of the Old Republic, I love being an evil son of a bitch in that game. Same thing with Fallout. Like, people are just so anti-fun, they don't just want to have fun. Why don't people have fun anymore? Why are things not fun? But yeah, I think you guys get my point. I think people are far too soft nowadays, easily offended, obviously. But even the people who claim to not be easily offended still get set off by things they say are, oh, that's crossing a line. Like, don't get me wrong, there are lines that shouldn't be crossed. But that's when you end up with illegal territory. That's when I think it crosses a line, when you're actually, like, going out and doing something illegal. Like, doxing isn't actually illegal, but I think it's bad. I don't think people should do that. That's crossing a line, right? But at the end of the day, everyone's just such a coward now, and it just drives me nuts. That rant I did as Sergeant Bastard way back in Captain Shame episode, I want to say it was like episode 11. That was like, that's so fucking prophetic, with me just in character as Sergeant Bastard talking about how much of a pussy everyone is. And, like, granted, that was because I was venting that frustration back then in character. But everyone fucking sucks. Like, all sorts of crazy stuff gets taken down. Like, there are plenty of cool things on the internet that you can't find anymore. And that's a shame. Like fucking Moon Man, right? Moon Man's offensive, Moon Man's over the top, but it was funny. Moon Man was fucking funny. And you can't find any of that anywhere on YouTube. It's been scrubbed. And everyone has to pretend they didn't find it funny. Everyone has to pretend that they're all up in arms about all this horrible, racist, offensive content. And I'm just fucking sick of it. Have a good one, guys. I hope you've enjoyed. I've rambled enough. Toodles.
That sucked. I'm sure glad that's over with.
Subscribe to Fiji Red Eye.